Another major news story, and the media is twisting numbers, bending facts, and hoping you won't notice. Welcome to Bias Breakdown. President Trump is looking to tackle crime in D.C., but the media's portrayal of D.C. crime is misleading. You're about to see a blatant example of how news outlets can handpick facts and construe real data in order to best serve their political agenda. We'll expose the half-truths the partisan media is giving you, then leave you with what they won't, the full picture.
This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back and placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control.
Trump announced Monday he is placing the D.C. police force under federal control and deploying both the National Guard and the city's police to patrol D.C. streets. As president, he has direct control over D.C.'s National Guard, and by invoking a 1973 law, Trump has the authority to use the D.C. police for federal purposes for 30 days. It's a major escalation to a topic that has consumed the news cycle.
President Trump once again threatening a federal takeover of D.C.
Federal takeover of D.C.
Federal control of Washington, D.C.
While Trump is federalizing D.C. police and not the entire city's government, it's still a historic move. Trump's reasoning for it, D.C. crime. And as you may have noticed in news coverage, this is the element of the story that is being spun. There's now a subset of facts for those on the left and those on the right, and it's hard to know what's true when you're being told two completely different things. Listen to this.
Here's a chart that shows as of 2024, violent crime is at a 15-year low in the district. This year's numbers are currently on track to be even lower.
Crime in D.C. is down this year, according to D.C. police, and the stats go through this morning. All crime, property crime, violent crime, all of it's down.
Contrary to the president's claims, violent crime in Washington, D.C. last year hit a 30-year low.
D.C. in many ways has become a disgrace. In 2023, D.C. had a homicide rate of 40 per 100,000 residents. It was the fifth worst of the 60 largest U.S. cities.
The Washington, D.C. crime rate is more than twice the national average, making it one of the most dangerous metro areas in the entire country.
The statistics are eye-popping. The homicide rate, when compared to other major U.S. cities, is horrible. D.C. has the fourth worst murder rate in the U.S.
So I hear these two conflicting sentiments, right? That crime in D.C. is actually not as bad as the president makes it out to be. And that crime in D.C. is actually really bad, and the president is justified to step in and clean it up. There, you've got your left and right political narratives, criticizing or defending Trump's reasoning to become more involved in policing the city. And the partisan media is providing its audiences supporting evidence to back up their argument. But that's not how the news is supposed to be. This is an example of slant, a form of media bias. And it wasn't just the talking heads on the TV, but also in headlines. Take one from Fox News on the right and another from Axios on the left. The news outlets strategically propped up their preferred conclusion of a crime surge versus falling crime, then only provided data and statistics that would show crime in D.C. is surging or falling. This is slant. As explained by media watchdog group All Sides, slant is a form of media bias in which journalists highlight or play up one particular angle through cherry-picking information to support one side. Slant prevents readers from getting the full story and narrows the scope of understanding. And that is exactly what's happened here. So here's what goes through my head when I see this kind of media bias. If you're like my family, the TV's on for the evening news, I'd say most nights, 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock news, and let's be honest, it's usually the same channel. Most of us gravitate toward the news outlets that match our politics. I mean, I don't know many liberal friends who are big fans of Fox News, but I do have conservative friends who like to poke fun at MSNBC. What that tells me is a lot of people never see what the other side is reporting. That's a problem when media outlets fuel their base with only half the story. It divides us under the guise of informing. We're not here to do that. Here are some of the facts that you should know about this story. In 2023, the homicide rate in DC was 40.9 per 100,000 residents. In 2024, the homicide rate in DC was 27.3 per 100,000. In 2023, DC saw the 5th highest murder rate among the nation's biggest cities. In 2024, DC saw the 4th highest murder rate among the nation's top cities. So what are fair conclusions you can make from this data? DC has one of the highest homicide rates in the nation. And homicides are also way down compared to 2023, down 31%. When looking at overall violent crime, in 2023, DC saw 5,345 incidents, or 1,151 violent crimes per 100,000. DC saw 3,469 violent crimes in 2024, and so far this year, DC has seen 1,572 violent criminal offenses. At this point in the year in 2024, DC had recorded 2,116 offenses. 2024 saw a 35% drop in violent crime compared to 2023. And there is also a 26% decrease in violent crime in 2025 compared to this time last year. Here are fair conclusions. When comparing crime rates, DC's violent crime rate in 2023 was higher than any state. And when comparing to years past, total violent crime in DC for 2024 was at its lowest in 30 years for DC. Data subsets can offer multiple conclusions, and data is a powerful tool. After all, numbers don't lie, as the saying goes. But how you use those numbers to create statistics can be manipulated. For example, when right-leaning networks compare DC's crime numbers to those of states, it is factual but can be somewhat misleading. While DC does stand out as a federal district rather than part of any state, it's not a state and has a much smaller population, so crime rates can appear higher. And when left-leaning networks compare the 2024 crime rate to the record high levels of 2023, it can give a distorted impression. Yes, the percentage drops are technically accurate, but because 2023 had an unusually high crime rate, the decrease may look more dramatic, even if some crimes remain high. In both situations, when comparisons are selective, they often miss the full picture. My hope is that after seeing true data and understanding there's different ways it can be interpreted, next time you're reading or listening to a story with data points, you'll be able to recognize when a story uses numbers to push a particular narrative. See it, spot it, call it out, and don't fall for the media's slant. Like reading an article from the New York Post, a news outlet on the right, you would have learned that since August 2023, DC police have collared 333 carjacking suspects, and 56% of those busts were of kids under 18. A statistic with the conclusion that juveniles are committing high rates of petty crime in DC. And if you read the article from the Washington Post on the left, you'd have read DC police have made about 900 juvenile arrests this year, almost 20% fewer than during the same time frame last year. A statistic with a conclusion that juvenile crime is substantially falling in DC. These articles highlight different aspects of juvenile crime without addressing each other's statistics, so potentially skewing perceptions over the issue due to the slant within its articles. And that's your bias breakdown. Thanks so much for watching this week's episode. I appreciate you watching all the way to the end here. If you want to be among the first notified when new episodes drop, then all you have to do is download the Straight Arrow News mobile app and set up notification alerts for bias breakdown. And calling all Spotify and Apple Podcast users, don't forget we are uploading on these platforms as well. It should be a pretty convenient way for you to listen. You can also rate the show on Spotify, so please let us know what you think. You can also check us out on YouTube, where I like to respond to some of our most loyal viewers and to first-time listeners who just so happen to stumble upon us. Remember, any rating, thumbs up, like, or comment, all of these interactions really do help us out on these platforms because of their algorithms. So whatever you can do, it really helps. Something I want to say here too, the story is seeing many new updates to it almost daily at this point. Major single crime events in DC, like the carjacking and beating of a former DOJ staffer, are being reported. President Trump involving the National Guard, deploying hundreds of federal officers to the DC streets. And Trump now putting local law enforcement under federal control for 30 days, as we wait to see if this will be enough or if federalizing the city's government is something still on the table. It's an evolving story, and we're covering it through our daily news updates that we do here at Straight Arrow News. So I encourage you to check out our other content as well. Through this podcast and in today's episode, my goal is to break down the media biases shaping major news stories like this one. I want to try and inform you and give you the tools that you need to spot when a news outlet is serving up half-truths. If today's conversation about media slant gave you something to think about, maybe share it, tell a friend, and maybe they can check us out for themselves. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks to Ian and Allie for all of the video and graphics help this week. We'll see you next time.